Make sure you're not around when we leave for Italy, my brother said over dinner. Would be awkward if you tried to tag along. My father nodded without looking at me. It's just not your place anymore. My name is Eleanor Vance. I'm 35 years old, and I work as a structural risk assessor in Boston, Massachusetts. For 11 months, I had inspected damaged commercial foundations, climbed cracked retaining walls in freezing rain, and spent weekends reviewing geological reports so I could pay for one perfect family vacation to Tuscany. 6 airline tickets, 7 nights in a historic luxury villa, a rental SUV, private vineyard reservations, restaurant deposits, and a private anniversary dinner for my parents. Every charge had gone through my card. Yet the people around that table had decided I was no longer invited. I looked at my brother, then at the others, waiting to see whether I would cry, argue, or beg. He wore the satisfied expression of someone who believed he had finally put me in my place. My mother adjusted her napkin. My younger sister stared at her phone. Nobody defended me. So I raised my wine glass and said, "Understood." My brother smiled. He had no idea that airline tickets were linked to my rewards account. He did not know the villa required the primary guest and original payment card at check-in. He had also forgotten that 3 weeks earlier he asked me to place the entire vacation under my name because his credit limit was too low. That night, I returned home, opened my laptop, and quietly began canceling everything they believed belonged to them. The dinner took place at my parents' house in Beacon Hill, 2 weeks before the flight. I arrived carrying printed itineraries, luggage tags, emergency contacts, and an anniversary card. Organization was part of my profession. Companies paid me to predict what could go wrong before a major project began, and for years, I had done the same for my family. I handled travel plans, medical paperwork, insurance disputes, repairs, and financial emergencies. Whenever something failed, my phone rang. Whenever something succeeded, someone else took credit. The Tuscany trip began after my mother mentioned that she and my father had never taken a real anniversary vacation. They had been married 40 years. I offered to cover flights and the villa while everyone else paid for meals and personal activities. My younger brother demanded a high-end estate. My sister wanted a house large enough for landscape photographs. My parents requested separate bedrooms and minimal walking. I accommodated every request. My brother, Julian Vance, then began sending links to villas far above the budget. He insisted our parents deserved a private infinity pool because he was building an online lifestyle brand and wanted unforgettable family content. When I selected a comfortable, authentic property, he called me cheap. My mother later asked me to upgrade so Julian would feel included. The upgrade cost nearly $6,000. At dinner, the atmosphere felt wrong immediately. The 6 regular place settings had been reduced to 5. My chair had been replaced with a folding chair at the corner. Halfway through the meal, my sister, Chloe Vance, began discussing matching linen outfits for the family airport picture. She showed everyone a group chat on her phone. I saw 5 names. Mine was missing. "Did you start another Italy chat?" I asked. The room went silent. Julian leaned back. "We were going to tell you tonight." "Tell me what?" "We think the trip would be better if you didn't come." For several seconds, I thought he was joking. "The trip I arranged?" He sighed. "You arranged the booking. That doesn't mean the vacation has to revolve around you." Chloe said I had been tense and controlling lately. That accusation was almost impressive because they had requested every schedule, address, weather update, and backup plan. I asked who would manage the villa, rental SUV, and deposits if I stayed home. Julian smiled. "I'll handle it." That was when I understood. They did not want me removed from the finances. They wanted me removed from the photographs. Julian's audience was still small, but a premium luggage company had offered him a sponsorship if he produced enough luxury family travel content. He wanted the villa I funded, the excursions I booked, and the image of a generous son giving his parents an anniversary trip. My presence would expose the truth. I turned to my parents. "Did you know about this?" My mother folded her hands. "Your brother has worked hard for this opportunity." "I paid for his opportunity." "You offered to help the family," she replied. "A gift should not come with control." My father said my personality could be intense, and everyone deserved a peaceful vacation. Perhaps, he suggested, I could visit Italy alone another time. Their dismissal revealed what I had ignored for years. They treated my labor like plumbing, essential, invisible, and only discussed when it stopped working. Julian laughed. Make sure you're not around when we leave. Would be awkward if you tried to tag along. My father added that it was no longer my place. I raised my glass because arguing would give them a scene they could use as proof that excluding me had been necessary. Understood. They relaxed immediately. Julian described the sunrise videos he planned to film. Chloe claimed the primary bedroom for better lighting. My father reminded me to email the parking confirmation. At the door, Julian called after me. Keep your phone on while we travel. There might be booking issues. I looked back. There might. I did not cancel anything immediately. Anger makes people reckless, and I had spent too many years evaluating disasters to create one of my own. I drove home, opened every contract, and reviewed the facts. All 6 airline tickets had been purchased through my rewards account. 5 were refundable as flight credits to the purchaser. Mine qualified for a cash refund. The villa required the primary guest to be present with matching identification and the original payment card. The rental SUV was in my name. The anniversary dinner could be canceled without penalty. 2 excursions were partially refundable. In other words, my family did not own a vacation. They owned screenshots of reservations I controlled. At 11:42 that night, Julian texted, "Remember to email all confirmation numbers before Friday. Also, don't cancel your card. They may need it at the villa." No apology, no explanation. I took a screenshot and opened the airline app. My thumb hovered over the cancellation button. I remembered Julian at 15 helping with my broken-down car, Chloe sleeping on my couch after a breakup, my father teaching me to change a tire, and my mother sitting beside me after surgery. Families are rarely entirely cruel. That is why exploitation is difficult to recognize. The good memories become evidence against your own boundaries. You convince yourself that people who once loved you cannot be using you now. But love from the past does not excuse contempt in the present. I canceled my father's ticket, then my mother's, Chloe's, and Julian's. Before canceling Julian's, I noticed an unfamiliar airline loyalty number attached to his profile. I copied it into my notes. The airline issued several $1,000s in credits to my account. I canceled the villa, recovering 60%. The remaining loss hurt, but leaving them in control would have cost me more. I transferred the restaurant reservation to a colleague attending a European design conference and donated the vineyard tour to a nonprofit supporting injured workers' families. I canceled the SUV and then my own ticket. I was not interested in sitting home while they tried to salvage the trip. Through work, I had accumulated hotel points and a companion flight benefit. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I called my closest friend, Sarah Lynn. She answered, "Someone better be bleeding." "Nobody's bleeding." "Then this had better be extraordinary. My family removed me from the Italy vacation I paid for." Silence. "Please tell me you canceled it." "I'm doing that now." "Good." Sarah was an urban engineer who approached betrayal like a damaged bridge. Identify the failure, close access, and do not reopen until the structure is safe. An hour later, we booked 2 seats to Scotland. For the same morning my family planned to fly to Florence. We chose a small inn, instead of a luxury resort. No brand campaign, no matching clothes, no obligation to make anyone else comfortable. The next morning, my mother left a voicemail. "Eleanor, your brother says you haven't sent the villa instructions. Please don't punish everyone, because we agreed it would be healthier for you to sit this one out." Chloe texted, "Can you send the booking email? Julian needs it for his brand partnership." I replied. "Julian said he was handling the trip." She answered, "He is, but the confirmation went to you. That sounds like something he should have considered." Over the next few days, the family chat filled with packing reminders, restaurant outfits, luggage questions, and color palettes. Nobody asked how I felt. 3 days before departure, Julian called from an unfamiliar number. "You need to stop being childish." "I thought you were handling the trip." "I am. I just need the codes. You told me the vacation would be better without me." "It will be. That doesn't mean you get to sabotage Mom and Dad's anniversary." "Who paid for the tickets?" He exhaled. "You offered. And you rejected my presence." He admitted the luggage company expected content and said he would lose a paid campaign if the trip failed. There it was. Not family unity, not our parents' anniversary, a campaign. When I refused, He threatened to tell everyone I had ruined the vacation because I could not tolerate being excluded. Before hanging up, he said, "You'll send the information." "You always do." He was right about who I had been. He did not know she had already canceled the tickets. On departure morning, Sarah and I arrived at Boston Logan International Airport before sunrise. Our flight to Scotland left from another terminal 40 minutes after my family's flight to Florence. I did not intend to confront them, but I wanted to know when reality reached the airline counter. My phone had been quiet since midnight, when my mother posted a photograph of 5 suitcases lined up in the hallway with the caption, "Family Adventure Begins." At 5:36 a.m., Julian texted, "Codes aren't working. Send updated ones." At 5:39, Chloe wrote, "The kiosk says reservation not found." At 5:41, my mother called. At 5:42, my father called. At 5:43, Julian called twice. Sarah returned with coffee, glanced at the screen, and said, "Impact detected." At 5:46, Chloe's message appeared in capital letters, "Fix this now." I smiled and replied, "There's nothing to fix. You told me not to come, so I removed myself and my money from the trip." Her response came instantly. "You canceled our flights?" I typed, "You did not have flights. You had tickets purchased through my account for a vacation, from which I had been excluded." Julian called again, and I answered. "What did you do?" he shouted. Behind him, my mother was crying while my father argued with an airline employee. "I respected your decision. Rebook us." "No. You can't do this." "I already did." He said same-day tickets would cost nearly $10,000 and accused me of stranding our parents. I reminded him that they were standing a few miles from home with taxis, phones, and 3 adult children. Nobody was stranded. He lowered his voice. "My sponsor expects us in Italy this afternoon. Then pay for the flights. My cards won't cover it." "That sounds like a risk you should have assessed before excluding the person financing the trip." My father took the phone. "Eleanor, this has gone far enough. Rebook the tickets. We'll discuss your behavior when we return." Even now, he assumed obedience was merely delayed. "You told me Italy was no longer my place. I was trying to prevent conflict. You succeeded. I'm not going." "That doesn't give you the right to cancel everyone else. The tickets were mine. They were a gift. A gift can be rejected. You rejected the person providing it while expecting to keep every benefit." He said family members should not use money as leverage. I asked why he had used belonging as leverage. He had no answer. My mother took the phone next. "We are standing here humiliated. I stood in your dining room while all of you told me I no longer belonged. That was different." "How?" "We weren't trying to hurt you. You were trying to erase me without losing access to my credit card." She accused me of ruining her anniversary, then admitted Julian had already spent money preparing his campaign. Chloe took the phone and demanded access to the villa. I told her it had been canceled. "Where are we supposed to stay?" "At home." She revealed that she had paid a photographer in Florence. Later, I learned the photographer was for her planned engagement announcement. I had funded a family trip that both siblings converted into private promotional events. Julian seized the phone again. "You're gonna regret this. You said that when I refused the codes." "I mean it this time. So do I." I ended the call and walked toward the gate. From a distance, I saw my family near the service desk. My father stood rigid beside the luggage cart. My mother sat with her head lowered. Chloe typed furiously. Julian gestured at an employee, then struck the counter with his palm. A supervisor approached. His anger was not grief. It was entitlement meeting a locked door. I turned away. By the time our plane left the ground, my family was still in Boston. Scotland did not transform me through landscapes or historical views. Change came because, for the first time in years, my family had no immediate access to me. Sarah and I spent our first afternoon walking through a coastal town, eating local food, and deciding each hour what we wanted next. No one complained about the restaurant, path, route, or schedule. Freedom was not dramatic. It was the absence of constant negotiation. I turned on my phone that evening. There were 47 messages, 12 voicemails, and several notes from relatives. Julian had already posted his version online. According to him, a controlling family member canceled an anniversary vacation because she was not allowed to dictate the itinerary. He omitted that I paid for everything, that he had a sponsorship, and that he told me I no longer belonged. Some relatives believed him. One aunt said my parents would not be around forever. A cousin asked whether I had suffered a breakdown. Then my Uncle Daniel privately asked, "Did you pay for the trip?" I answered yes and forwarded Julian's messages, demanding the codes and telling me not to cancel the card. Daniel replied, "Understood." I did not defend myself publicly. Julian wanted a social media battle because attention was currency. Silence deprived him of the performance. Instead, I wrote in the family chat, "All charges made by me have been canceled or reassigned. Do not represent yourselves as authorized users of my accounts. Further payment discussions must be in writing." Julian responded with laughing emojis. My father called it a legal threat. Then Chloe wrote, "You'd better not cancel the replacement card too." I stared at the message. Replacement card? I had never given them one. I called my credit card issuer. The representative confirmed that an additional user card had been requested 6 weeks earlier and mailed to my parents' address. The request came through my online account, using my password and the correct security answer. The authorized user was Julian Vance. The card had been activated. 4 pending charges totaled more than $8,000. Custom luggage, camera equipment, a Florence studio deposit, and premium transportation. I reported the card as unauthorized. The account was frozen and transferred to fraud investigators. My father had once asked me to log into my account from his home computer to pay a home repair contractor. I had forgotten to sign out. Julian must have found the saved session. He had not merely expected me to fund the trip. He had created a way to keep spending after excluding me. Sarah found me sitting beside the window. "What happened?" I told her. She asked, "What documentation do you have?" That question steadied me. I had screenshots, timestamps, shipping records, messages, and Julian's warning not to cancel the card. I froze my credit reports and requested a full review. One report revealed a recent inquiry from a small business lender. Julian had applied for financing for a travel media company, using my home address and partial financial information. The next morning, he left a furious voicemail. "You reported the card stolen? The luggage company canceled my contract because the expenses failed. Call the bank and tell them it was authorized." His second message was quieter. "I was going to pay it back after the sponsorship. I only used your account because the campaign had deadlines." His third message hurt most. "Mom knew about the card. She thought you would understand once the money came in. My mother knew. She had defended my exclusion while quietly allowing Julian to use my account. I called her once. 'Did you know he requested a card in my name? He said it was connected to Italy.' 'Did I authorize it?' She hesitated. 'He told me you had agreed to help his business.' 'Did I tell you that?' 'No, but you help everyone.' My generosity had become blanket consent. Because I helped before, they believed they never needed to ask again. Mom, this is financial fraud. Don't use words like that about your brother. What words would you prefer? He made a mistake. He impersonated me. She said reporting him could destroy his future. I asked why preserving his future required sacrificing mine. I ended the call and kept all further contact in writing. The bank later stopped the pending charges. The lender suspended Julian's application. The luggage company terminated his campaign after he could not verify his production financing or provide the promised Italy content. His trip disappeared, his sponsorship vanished, and his loan stalled. For the first time, none of his consequences could be transferred to me. When I returned to Massachusetts, my parents requested a family meeting. My father's email said the situation had become disproportionate and needed to be handled privately before more reputational damage occurred. He proposed Sunday dinner at their house. I declined and offered a conference room at my attorney's office. Their tone changed immediately. My mother wrote that lawyers were unnecessary between relatives. Julian accused me of intimidation. Chloe said I was treating everyone like criminals. I replied that the meeting involved disputed financial activity, so a neutral setting was appropriate. Through my employer, I consulted an attorney named Sloan. She explained that the bank would decide whether to refer the identity issue for criminal review. My immediate protection was documentation, account separation, written boundaries, and a demand that Julian preserve all messages related to the card and loan application. Julian arrived at the meeting 20 minutes late in a blazer, looking prepared to negotiate. My parents sat together. Chloe chose the chair nearest the door. Sloane sat beside me with a folder. Nobody hugged. My father began by saying every family makes mistakes, and that involving banks and lawyers could cause irreversible harm. Sloane clarified that I had not publicized anything. I had reported unauthorized activity to the institutions responsible for my accounts. Julian leaned forward. I had permission. From whom? I asked. You said you were paying for Italy. I agreed to specific vacation expenses, not a new card, equipment, studio fees, or a business loan. He claimed the card was only a backup for the villa. Sloane placed copies of his messages on the table, including his admission that he planned to repay me after the sponsorship. His confidence weakened. My mother redirected the conversation to the airport, claiming that abandoning my parents at check-in was cruel. I reminded her that they had homes, transportation, telephones, and their own money. They were not abandoned. They simply lost access to mine. Chloe said photographs of Julian arguing at the airline counter had circulated among relatives after a cousin witnessed the scene. Julian's public accusations encouraged others to share what they had seen, including an airport supervisor approaching after he struck the counter. His attempt to control the story produced the humiliation he blamed on me. Chloe then revealed that her boyfriend refused to reimburse the Florence photographer because he had never agreed to an expensive engagement session. Their proposal was postponed. She spoke as though I had damaged her relationship personally. You built your proposal around a trip you did not pay for, I said. My father finally admitted he knew about Julian's sponsorship and Chloe's photographs. He saw no problem because everyone would benefit from being together. Everyone except me. You don't enjoy being photographed, he replied. So you removed me from my own vacation for my comfort? He rubbed his forehead. We thought there would be less tension. Sloane asked whether they expected me to continue paying after being removed. My father answered, she had already committed. That sentence ended the debate. They did not consider my presence part of the agreement. My role was financial commitment. Sloane presented a settlement proposal. I would not seek repayment for the non-refundable villa loss. I would tell the bank that Julian was cooperating, but I would not lie and claim the card was authorized. In return, Julian would admit in writing that he requested and used the card without permission, withdraw applications containing my information, repay any settled charges, and stop claiming publicly that I sabotaged a trip he purchased. Julian refused. He said the admission would destroy his brand. Sloane pointed out that the campaign was already gone, and that refusing cooperation could worsen the investigation. He stood and accused me of using money to make myself indispensable, because without it, nobody would choose to spend time with me. Years earlier, that sentence would have broken me. This time, it sounded like a confession. If nobody wants me there, I asked, why are all of you so angry that I stopped paying? He had no answer. Julian left, and Chloe followed. 2 days later, his attorney contacted Sloane. The lender had referred discrepancies to compliance, and his counsel advised cooperation. Julian signed a revised agreement and repaid the settled charges by selling the camera equipment. The luggage company permanently ended its relationship with him. His audience declined after he deleted his accusations and posted a vague statement about financial misunderstandings. My parents lost something too. Their image of a close, admirable family. When people learned that the daughter who paid had been excluded, my mother stopped receiving admiring questions about Italy and began receiving uncomfortable questions about why it happened. She blamed me for the embarrassment. I reminded her that I had posted nothing. The truth had not humiliated them because I weaponized it. It humiliated them because they depended on secrecy. 6 months passed before I saw my family again. During that time, I changed more than passwords. I separated every shared subscription, emergency account, insurance contact, and household service that had quietly made me responsible for other adults. I removed my card from my parents' utility portal, ended Chloe's phone line on my account, declined to review Julian's paperwork, and updated my will, beneficiaries, and medical contacts. These actions were not revenge. They were maintenance. My work had taught me that preventing future loss requires more than repairing visible damage. You must identify the system that allowed the failure. In my family, the system depended on three assumptions. Eleanor would pay, Eleanor would stay quiet, and Eleanor would eventually forgive without requiring change. I ended all three. Sarah and I remained close after Scotland. We began taking short weekend trips without elaborate plans. Sometimes we traveled. Sometimes we ordered food and watched documentaries. The important part was that my time no longer felt like an account everyone else could withdraw from. Julian eventually found full-time work, managing digital promotions for a local fitness chain. His travel brand survived on a smaller scale, but the glamorous family image disappeared. He completed a financial ethics program as part of the lender's resolution process, and the bank closed its review after repayment and cooperation. Chloe's relationship survived, though her engagement happened privately months later. She mailed me a wedding invitation without a note. I declined. She later asked whether I would contribute to the honeymoon registry instead of attending. I did not respond. My parents initially treated my distance as a phase. My mother left messages about forgiveness and family unity. She never mentioned the dinner directly. My father sent practical questions about roofers, retirement forms, and appliance warranties. Every message tried to restore my usefulness without repairing the relationship. I answered once in writing, "I am willing to discuss rebuilding our relationship when the conversation begins with accountability rather than a request for assistance." 3 months later, my father asked to meet alone at a coffee shop. He looked older than he had at the attorney's office. He placed a handwritten letter on the table. In it, he admitted supporting my exclusion because Julian convinced him I would interfere with the sponsorship. He also admitted believing I would continue paying because I had never withdrawn support before. One line mattered most. "I treated your reliability as permission to disrespect you." It was not a complete repair, but it was honest. I asked why he had said Italy was no longer my place. He stared into his coffee. "Because I wanted you to accept the decision quickly, so you used belonging to control me." Yes. Truth hurt, but less than confusion. I did not forgive him immediately. I told him trust would return slowly, if at all. For once, he did not ask me to make the process easier. My mother took longer. Her letter contained apologies mixed with explanations. She had been afraid Julian would fail, afraid the family would argue, afraid the anniversary would disappoint everyone. I replied that fear could explain a decision without excusing it. Julian never apologized directly. His settlement acknowledged actions, not harm. That was enough information for me to decide what kind of relationship was possible. None. People often assume the satisfying end of a revenge story is watching the villains lose money, status, or opportunity. Julian lost all three. My parents lost the image of a perfect family. Chloe lost the Florence proposal she planned using my vacation. Yet none of those consequences gave me lasting satisfaction. The real victory happened at the airport when I stopped confusing sacrifice with love. Healthy generosity requires choice. Support given under pressure is not kindness. It is compliance. A boundary is not punishment simply because another person dislikes it. Family membership does not grant unlimited access to someone's money, time, labor, or identity. I also learned that repeatedly rescuing capable adults does not always make them grateful. Sometimes it teaches them that consequences are optional. Each time I paid a bill, fixed a mistake, or accepted disrespect to preserve peace, I strengthened the behavior hurting me. My family did not become entitled at that dinner. I simply reached the moment when I could no longer ignore it. A year after the canceled trip, I returned to Europe. This time, I traveled to Italy alone for 3 days before Sarah joined me. I used part of the airline credit recovered from the original tickets and stayed in a modest hotel overlooking a quiet stretch of coast. No matching outfits, no sponsorships, no surprise photographer, no relatives expecting me to manage their happiness. On my second evening, I reserved a table for one near the water. The host asked whether anyone would be joining me. "No," I said. "This seat is mine." The words made me smile because they were about more than dinner. For years I believed belonging was something my family could grant or remove. They could invite me, exclude me, praise me, or reduce me to a bank account. That belief gave them power they had never earned. My place was not at their table, on their vacation, or inside the perfect family image they wanted others to admire. My place was wherever I could live without purchasing permission to be respected. When the sun disappeared behind the water, I raised my glass, just as I had during that final dinner before the airport disaster. This time, I was not hiding shock or planning a cancellation. I was celebrating the life that became possible after I understood one simple truth. Saying no did not cost me my family. It revealed who had only stayed because I kept saying yes.